Thanks everyone for joining today, and thank you, Matthew, for the warm introduction there. So today, here to talk to you about subscriptions and working through some strategies to engage consumers, bring them into a subscription model, lengthen the term of their subscriptions, and also explore new models of subscription that we're seeing emerge in e-commerce. So with Recharge, and our mission is to empower merchants by making payments easy for everyone. So who is Recharge? We've been around for about 5 years now. We power over 10,000 Shopify merchants, and they range from solo entrepreneurs with their weekend side projects, right up to Fortune 500 merchants, and also hyper-growth VC-backed merchants such as Hubble Contacts and MyLola. The reason why we're here today is we do have a partner program where we have 21 live technology partners that include the likes of Klaviyo, Smile.io, Swell Rewards. We're here to work with them, work with agencies, and help educate merchants on how they can better improve their subscription experience. So first I want to talk about the subscription economy itself. It's a pretty hot topic right now, and for good reason. It is growing 100% year on year since 2013. And subscriptions are not a new concept to consumers. 78% of people do have at least one subscription, be it gym, Netflix, Spotify, something like that. And 12% of disposable income is spent on subscriptions. So it's a huge opportunity for merchants to start capturing the capital that's on the table. But even though this is a decades-old type of commerce, it's relatively new to the e-commerce space. So looking at this timeline here, we see back in 2010, trends such as Birchbox really launched this idea of a subscription model. In 2011, Amazon comes along and they launch a subscribe and save approach. And as we all know, Amazon tends to know a little thing or two about e-commerce. We skip over 5 years. In 2016, we see the model being very much validated by Unilever with the acquisition of Dollar Shave Club for $1 billion. Bear in mind, this is just a razor blade company, and this valuation was based primarily upon the forecasting of their subscription model. And then in 2016, we're starting to see an evolution in how e-commerce and subscriptions interact. We're going beyond just the expected boxes and the expected consumables, and we're seeing brands like Apple launch options like their upgrade plan, which, if you're not familiar, is a way of paying for your iPhone over a 12-month period with a guaranteed delivery in 12 months. And in 2018, sub to that, we're seeing iterations on the subscription model that are not just the consumables that we all expect and know. So how has this happened? A lot of it is just down to technological innovation. So payment methodologies have changed. We've gone beyond the requirement for ACH, direct debit, which take 4 to 5 days to set up, inaccessible to consumers, and they're difficult for brands. You have to pay huge deposits to banks to be allowed to carry out a direct debit scheme. We've seen the launch of intuitive subscription platforms, such as Recharge, and these give merchants and consumers all the tools they need to effectively run a successful recurring billing business. And we're seeing flexibility. I'm sure you've all tried to cancel a gym membership in the past, and it's been a complete nightmare. Very opaque, no control for the consumer, everything led by the merchant. And that's now changing. We're seeing brands come to light and realize they have to offer flexibility and the ability for their consumers to own the relationship between them and the brand. And finally, just overarching themes in e-commerce. Direct-to-consumer is becoming more of a prominent theme. We're seeing brands take agency and, again, owning that relationship between themselves and the consumer that uses their products. As this evolution has been very apparent, we're seeing entrant brands coming into the marketplace being subscription first. A great example being Hubble Contacts, who came into us in 2016. Not a single consumer at that point, no product, admittedly a little bit of VC funding, but now, 2 years later, they're processing well into the 6-figure numbers of subscribers on a monthly basis. And you cannot buy a one-time item on their store. It's all subscription. And we're also seeing legacy brands pivoting to focus on recurring revenue. I know I mentioned Apple earlier, but I think a really nascent example is Adobe. In 2015, they transformed their Creative Cloud from a license model to a SaaS model. And since then, we've seen their stock price fivefold. And the impact on revenues is huge. Subscription-led brands, their revenues are growing at 9 times faster, than the S&P 500 average. And so why is this happening? So anyone who was here for Steve Hassey's talk yesterday, he went through his story being able to pay for his street food with his Apple Watch. Consumers are expecting much faster and easier purchasing options. They don't want it to go through traditional checkouts over and over again, and those checkouts have to change with things like Apple Pay and Google Pay. Data. For anyone who's been in the Klaviyo keynotes and the product launch, you've seen just how much data they're now making accessible to merchants and allowing you to consume it, analyze it in a very efficient manner. And this allows you to then drive that into subscription revenue. By understanding your consumers better, you can better position products in front of them and understand what would make sense for individuals. And the value. So again, seeing the growth of the revenues compared to S&P 500 average, merchants are looking for more diverse ways to lock in repeat custom, especially outside of traditional consumable models. So let's start talking about how subscriptions are beneficial to both the merchant and the consumer themselves. So we're all in Boston for a reason. It's here to drive more revenue for the merchants. And here are some of the key benefits that we've highlighted. So, quick raise of hands. Who here is excited about their Black Friday and holiday numbers for sales? Who's excited about their January and February figures? Okay, a handful. With obviously recurring payments, you're locking in consumers over a longer period of time. You're not relying upon that seasonal peak and trough that we typically see with e-commerce. Optimize supply chain. You know next month what products you're going to expect to sell, or at least hope to beyond your subscriptions. This allows you to be more efficient with your warehousing, your supply chain purchasing power, making sure you're not under or overstocking product. And very pertinent to the Klaviyo conversation today, you have a deeper customer relationship. It's no longer transactional. You're no longer selling a customer a product and then trying to rake them back in through retargeting, email campaigns. With subscriptions, you have that relationship ongoing. It's conversational. You can use them to generate feedback loops about the products they like or don't like. And you get the opportunities there as well to bring in additional revenue. You can upsell to these customers very easily. You have that relationship with them. You know that they have their friends. If they're an engaged customer, their refer a friend campaigns are more successful. You also look at new SaaS membership models. Maybe you could offer a subscription that doesn't necessarily have a physical product attached to it, which we'll get into in more detail later on. And for product launch, if you're launching out a new range of product, so Jeremy at Mommy Makeup, for example, launched out a new range of nail polish, he knows exactly which cohort of his subscribers will like that product. It's a great way to get the right product in front of the right person at the right time. And as I referenced earlier on, optimize ad spend. You no longer have to try and scrape back returning customers. You already have that relationship with them. And so what's the impact on LTV? So we all know these numbers here. A quarter of your revenue comes from repeat customers. Repeat customers are 7 times more valuable. We all know this. How does that relate to subscriptions? So again, raise of hands, who here has at least one or more e-commerce subscription? Who of you has 3 or more? So actually the numbers are higher. So this is a rising tide effect. As more and more merchants make subscriptions accessible, they give flexibility, and the subscriber themselves has less fear about engaging into that relationship with a merchant, everyone will be more beneficial or benefit. But it's all well and good talking about ourselves and merchants. What's the impact on the consumer? You can put as many call to actions to subscribe on your PDPs as you want, but if there's no genuine value there for the consumer, they're not going to interact. This is an important slide. This is the subscriber value hierarchy. So how does a subscriber or a consumer approach subscriptions and say, this is what matters to me, this is why I'm going to click subscribe rather than one-time purchase? First is convenience. So these are the customers, the repeat customers who love your brand, love your product. They come back week after week, month after month. Why make it difficult for them? Why make them go through the checkout process? Why not just get them to automate that flow? Essential products. So this spans into 2 areas. One are the truly essentials, the 5 a.m. Monday morning, you're out of diapers. That's a serious problem. But you also have the products, as a guy, you wake up Monday morning, run out of razors. It's a pain. Why make customers go out to the store, buy these products at an inconvenient time for them? And the one point here about price and perceived value is the most important, I think, of this entire deck. Whenever I speak to a new merchant, the question they often ask is, what is the discount I should be offering? Well, why offer a discount at all? Only 20% of subscribers say an incentive and financial value was what drove them to actually subscribe versus buy a one-time item. And not to write off price and perceived value, you can offer things like free shipping. But all of this is down to Amazon Subscribe and Save. I blame them for a lot of this mentality. And Steve from Smile was speaking about yesterday, why do merchants always instinctively go to discount first? There's other ways to become a more valued partner to your consumer. And I've had to block off the fourth one here. This is surprise and curation. This is the model where we've seen things like box companies come to the forefront, and also new types of companies like Hunter Killer, for example, who are offering more of an experiential model. They're not necessarily firing out a physical product, but making sure customers can engage with their product in different ways. And it is also very much a vertical specific approach here. For example, surprise and curation might work very well for your coffee delivery or beer delivery, trying something new. It's not going to work for your contact lens subscription. So how does this hierarchy translate into models? So we're all pretty very familiar. Product replenishment, so this is the consumables, supplements, coffee, drinks, food. Product curation, so again, looking at the box model, experiential model. And most interestingly, and the one we're seeing the most drive, is in the SaaS model and membership. So let's take a couple of examples of merchants who are doing a really good job of this. First one is replenishment. So a third of all online subscriptions are in the replenishment space. And to drive real LTV here, we have to look at that hierarchy again. Why are customers wanting to replenish and actually use you as a subscription model? And a lot of it's convenience. So it's crucial here to offer as much flexibility as you possibly can. Be it from the PDP, offering from your data-driven analysis, knowing what frequencies to offer to your subscribers, making sure you have intuitive portal environments so they can log in, manage their subscriptions, cancel, skip, change, modify in any way they need to. And that's another really important point. Cancellation versus skipping. Merchants have this huge fear of a skipped delivery. They would rather allow a customer to cancel, whereas if you can keep them in and skip, update their upcoming order date, retain them as a lifelong member of your consumer base, the LTV will naturally increase. And also looking into financial or product incentives. So to understand what will drive the customer to go through the purchase flow itself. Is it going to be an ongoing financial discount, maybe 10%, 15%? Or is it more about the product incentive itself? Are we looking at taking the customer through a free trial model where we're offering them a smaller test product earlier on for them to trial? Or are we looking at other models where on an ongoing basis we can provide them with upsell opportunities? And also reducing subscriber risk. And this also comes into play with the merchant as well. There's a lot of risk involved in a subscription model. If you are offering financial or product incentives, these are open to abuse quite easily by savvy consumers. But also as a consumer, it's very easy to get locked into an inflexible model where the merchant can effectively hold you to ransom. You can't cancel. You're trapped into an annual subscription, for example. You can't change the product you're subscribed to. So making sure that this is communicated and make sure that both parties are protected as early as you can. So a great example I wanted to go through today is Dr. Axe. They're one of our more long-standing merchants. And they've done an exceptional job of optimizing the sign-up flow for subscription and optimizing the ongoing management experience for subscription as well. So here's here as an example of one of their landing pages. We've got a very simple call to action, and there's multiple references to the subscription model itself. So again, clarifying it's a subscription. Again, looking at what the incentive is here. In this case, a free trial. where the customer has to cover shipping. So again, protection is there for both merchant, protection is there also for the consumer as well. They know they can try the product. If they don't like it, they can cancel it. The commitments are very low. So you click on subscribe, what's next? Multi-collagen, I'm not too sure if anyone here knows what it is. I would have no idea how much product I actually need. So why make it a fatiguing process for me to decide what I should subscribe to and at what frequency? Dog Tracks, for example, they have a huge amount of data on their existing consumer base, so they can start opening up options such as the most popular one, and explaining this is what we would typically see a consumer in your status ordering. And again, going through clarifying that this is a very accessible model. You can go in, log in, skip, change the frequency, customize experience to you at any point. And then again, looking at the cart page, it's again very explicit that this is a subscription model. It's almost over-communicated. It's similar to the remote working model, where if you think you are communicating too much, you're probably not communicating enough. And again, clarifying that this is a free sample pack, single serving, shipping, and then also clarifying what's going to happen next, when, how, and what's the process they can expect. And then moving forward, how can they manage this subscription on an ongoing basis? This here is the portal environment where you as a consumer can log in. And it's very clear, you can edit what you're subscribed to. You see your next charge date, the delivery schedule you're on, the savings you receive, options to swap out product, cancel, reactivate if necessary. I'm also plugging in a rewards program as well. So you can see you're giving the consumer the same experience if they're buying on a one-time basis as they are on a recurring basis. And next up, I'd like to dig into the membership model. So this is something I discussed earlier on as one of the more emerging scenarios for subscription and e-commerce. This is also relate to an example that the BBXL team referenced earlier on today and also came up yesterday as well. But this is a growing trend in the e-commerce space. We're seeing 13% of the subscriptions we see right now are access or membership related. So this can cover a number of things. Things like preferred pricing. If you're a member of an e-com store, perhaps you can log in and any purchase you make, you receive a discount on that. It could be community membership. By being a member, do you access things like forums, blogs, perhaps it's experts, the ability to work with a consultant, a stylist, whatever it might be. Also free shipping, making sure that, again, any purchase they make on an ongoing basis, but a one-time purchase, they get a benefit from being a member of your community. And also early limited access to new products. This is particularly successful in verticals where there's a highly engaged consumer base. So the comment that was made yesterday was around trainer fanatics. These are people who will pay a hefty premium to access a product that might be limited edition or before their friends and other consumers. So a great example that we've seen is a company called Freshlypicked, which if you're not familiar with them, it's a BBXL merchant. And they sell a high-end children's moccasin. So we're talking a very premium product. A product that we would not necessarily in the past have said this is a prime opportunity for subscription. However, they've approached this and worked with other partners in the loyalty space to build out a program that allows them to charge a customer $10 a month and provide them a set of benefits. So it's pretty much a tick list of the previous things here, but 20% off everything. Oh, sorry. Free shipping always. VIP early access to the new products, and also a $10 monthly credit. So actually the $10 they're paying in, they're not losing it. They're just accruing it for when they do actually want to carry out a purchase. But it does mean for the merchant, their cash flow is a lot more interesting than it was before. And this one was a great success. So these numbers are about 3 or 4 weeks old, but they did have 10,000 members in their first 3 months. And interestingly, half of those subscribers were first-time purchasers of Freshlypicked. And this model is interesting and it starts to leverage the ecosystem. So as I mentioned in the first few slides, we do work with 21 technology platforms, which allow us to offer new models of subscription that we wouldn't have seen previously. A great example being loyalty. So providing a richer and more rewarding subscriber experience, you can start to improve that LTV. If a customer is buying a product one time, why do they benefit from loyalty points, whereas someone who's buying on a recurring basis does not? So how do you provide a cohesive consumer experience? Making sure that they can provide refer friends to, or affiliates to a subscription purchase as well as a one-time purchase. And how can they take advantage of the conversational touch points of subscription? Again, we're talking about a situation where you're not having the transactional relationship of single emails post-purchase. You're now in a situation where you can forecast. You can tell a customer, we're going to provide you an order in 3 days' time. Would you like to add on this additional item, which we know you'll like because of your previous billing experience? So all this allows you to reduce the cost per acquisition of a customer and maximize the lifetime value of that consumer as a subscriber rather than a one-time purchase. So thank you for listening. I'd like to open up to any Q&A anyone may have. Please.
Switched over to Recharge, actually from Bold, not too long ago, and we're in the migration process, and it's been great. But my question is that one of the challenges that we have is that we sell consumable products, so we sell hair and skincare products. And my challenge has been the churn rate for something that's not a differentiated product every time. Right, so I have friends who sell subscription boxes, and when the customer gets their item, it's new every time. So it's like, oh, there's a surprise and there's a delight. But for my items, you sign up for the shampoo or the conditioner or whatever it is that you need, and you know it is every time. There's no surprise and delight outside of like the little inserts we may put into your package. So do you have any suggestions for how the churn rate for such products as mine can be reduced when they don't have that surprise element involved?
Well, first of all, congratulations on the move. It is a difficult one. Consumer products, they can be quite dry for a consumer. They're just buying it because they need it. It's necessity as opposed to surprise and delight. And so thinking that, it might be looking into opportunities to look at the SaaS option. So as a subscriber, perhaps you get access to maybe stylist tips, maybe closed content, or even early access to new products, asking them to be part of a club where they can offer you feedback, find out why they're churning out. Is it because they have too much product, allowing them to easily skip, change upcoming order date? So maybe looking for a more inclusive environment where they can give you advice as a trusted consumer.
So the company I work for, we're a venture-backed startup called Ruggable in the rug space. We're disrupting the space as we have patented technology for machine washable rugs, and they're removable, changeable, and washable. So one thing we're really trying to do is to kind of get people to change their rug for every season, and that's why I'm in here, is kind of trying to see how we could possibly introduce a subscription model to this industry, which kind of seems like kind of hard to do. But I feel like it could be possible, so just wondering if you had any thoughts on that, and if there's any other businesses you've seen that traditionally wouldn't have been able to enter the subscription space, but they did and they're successful.
Sure. I mean, there's a few questions there about things like what's the price of the product, also recyclability. We have seen in the past, back to the shoe example, not Freshly Picked, a different merchant. Again, it was children's shoe where there's a high turnover, and they ran a recyclable model. So every 3-6 months, you return the shoes, you got a fresh pair. The old shoes were either refurbished, did it for charity, or recycled in some fashion. That might be an opportunity to look at with Ruggable.
All right, thank you so much.
Welcome. Sure.
Well, thanks for being here. Question, we make makeup products, lipsticks and eyeshadows and powders, and so certain products are replenishable, and we know what we can do with that. What happens when the customer, if we put them in a product that maybe comes in 18 different colors, and we want to do a subscription on a product that they change? Do they have the option to change the color when it's time for the replenishment? Let's say we do a lipstick of the month or whatever. So they get an email, is that how it works? And then will they have the option to change the color to something that they want? Or do we have to preset that for them?
Sure. I mean, there's a few options here. So we fully automate that conversation piece, so we'll inform the customer of an upcoming order. And with that, they can access their portal environment, where if you have the colors set as variants, for example, in Shopify, they can just drop down, change those. If it's a line item, more complex, but a UI can be created. Or alternatively, if it's a completely separate product, they can click swap and transform that SKU product into something else. And that's all on a manual basis.
The customer has the option to make that. We have to give them.
They have that option by default. We also have merchants where they're leveraging things like our API, and what they're doing there is they're randomizing each month what those colors should be. It's like a surprise and delight approach.
And sorry to follow more here, and the tie-in words such as smile, so that because you're on your own checkout, it's then telling smile that dollars points taking points because they're no longer on the Shopify checkout, they're now on Recharge checkout. And that's the reason for the
Yeah, so with our API, we make all this data available. So other technical solutions like Smile can consume that data. So they'll understand via a webhook, for example, that a purchase has been completed on our checkout. We will say it's a value of $10. Here are some parameters. And based on the rules in Smile or the loyalty tool, you can then say that results in X points or a referral or reward, whatever it might be.
So we have time for about 3 more questions.
Can you elaborate a little bit on the merchant showcase? Because our product is something you can buy and be good for like a year or 6 months. But I think maybe the merchant showcase would be something that we could introduce to our customers. But I mean, I saw the slide, but it went by really fast. Like, can you elaborate a little bit more on that?
Sure. I mean, so with Recharge, you can offer anything from a weekly subscription or daily subscription right up to annual and beyond. So we have merchants leveraging annual subscriptions versus a weekly subscription. So it's entirely open for the setup and customization, if that answers your question.
Kind of, yeah. So essentially, we could do like a Prime like an Amazon Prime, but for our website.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, and then so I mean, let's say somebody signs up, do they have to log in order to get those perks like free shipping and 20% off, or how does that work?
Sure. So what will happen is we understand they're a subscriber. We're carrying out all of the billing. As part of that process, we can also tag that customer in, let's say, Shopify or in another relevant solution, and make them aware that if this customer is signed in, then they should be, have these preferences and rewards applied to them automatically. So it's all in the background header by tagging.
That's pretty sweet. Okay, and then last question is that merchant showcase, was it a specific website? Because I kind of want to look into it if it is something that is able to be shared.
Sure. Yeah, that's Freshly Picked.
Freshly Picked. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. And do they do it monthly or yearly?
That's monthly. So every month we charge them customer $10. As part of that, we pass the information through to the loyalty tool.
Okay.
They handle all of the rewards and that side of things.
Cool. So Freshly. Okay. All right. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Hi, I work at a skincare company also, and we also use Recharge. But I noticed that there were some distinct differences that you brought up and that stood out in your presentation. And I was curious if you could offer some sort of best practices there. For example, taking advantage of the conversational points of subscribing, if you could expand upon that a little bit.
Yeah, of course. So with this, it's working with tools like our Zapier integration and also a rapidly improving Klaviyo integration, where rather than relying upon the Recharge notification suite, you can start to leverage those tools instead to understand who the customers are, you maybe do different cohorts based upon what they're signed up to, frequencies, and then from that, have a different conversation with each individual subscriber.
Okay. And then also with the Dr. Axe example, I noticed how user-friendly the survey was. We just sort of have like a plus sign, and then you're subscribing to a product rather than deciding what the frequency is, and we just have an FAQ article to determine how frequently you should subscribe. Does Recharge offer solutions for setting up surveys like that?
So we don't in-house. That was actually built by a team called eHouse Studio out of Charleston. In fact, I think they're around, there we go, over there. So teams like that, they have the expertise and the skill sets to build out flows like that. It's, yeah. You're welcome. Thank you. So was there a question? Or?
So with the freshly picked example, let's say I sign up for that monthly plan. Do I get my 20% right away or just next time I log in? So we currently have Bold and they don't do it right away. The customer has to first purchase the membership and then log in. That's something we're struggling with because a lot of people are expecting to get the discount at the same purchase.
Oh, for the instantaneous bit. So not by default, but there are some routes there where you can start to append in a discount code automatically if they're going through that flow. So it's a little bit of custom work, but it's not difficult.
But it's doable?
Yeah, we can
Because that's a
speak
big, a lot of people end up not checking out because they don't get the discount right away. So.
Yeah, it's a simple fix, but we can work
cool.
with that.
Thanks.
You're welcome.
So the tie-in back to Klaviyo, if Recharge is sending the customer an email 1 day before the expected recurring transaction, is Recharge also sending other metrics to Klaviyo that we can then act on, as far as, let's say, give them a setup, so say, hey, in 3 days, so we could do it from the Klaviyo side, or are we expecting all the communication to be coming from Recharge, or do we get control and we can make it a transactional email from Klaviyo?
It's a good question. Actually, Kevin and myself met with Klaviyo about that today. It is in the iteration, so that's coming through. The ideal would be to have all of the notifications that we send out going through Klaviyo for advanced analytics. Right now, it's a segmentation on active versus inactive subscriber, but this is all coming in the near term.
So it could be look like a transactional. So if the customer is not suppressed, the problem with customer suppressed, we can't send them. So it's coming from your system, or?
Yeah. So right now it's coming from Recharge, but moving forward, we'll be able to use Klaviyo for.
And then